During the Victorian era, butterfly collecting was very popular. Well, people had more time to enjoy their surroundings and those little flying creatures. Well, can't you just imagine a woman dressed in her beautiful white dress chasing butterflies with her net? Well, the butterfly gets its color from its loose, powdery scales. And if you rub the scales off, the wings become transparent. Well, the butterflies in this quilt get their colors from the charming prints of the 1930s. You know, I just love that cheery yellow sashing. And you know, maybe it represents the yellow color of the sulfur butterfly. And then there's solid butterflies in bubblegum pink, green, and yellow making up the center. And then there's a mix of small and large-scale butterflies to complete the quilt. It's just great. And the quilt maker did wonderful hand stitching with that black embroidery floss. What work! Well, adult butterflies don't eat. You know, they only drink liquids from flowers and juice from fruit. Well, this cute little butterfly has his mouth and his eyes stitched right in. You know, he has a lot of personality in his wings. So cute. You know, butterflies are creatures of sun, and they fly best when they're warm. Well, this butterfly has the sun surrounding him with this bright yellow lattice. And you know, it is yet another butterfly shape, and again, stitched with that black embroidery floss. Well, today, many butterflies are raised on butterfly farms. They have a naturally short lifespan, and when they lay their eggs, they die. But you can preserve their beauty to use year-round in this contemporary quilt. Now, there's 15 butterflies, 3 vertical rows, and the cute butterflies are made from 2 parts. They have a top and they have a bottom. And then that striped lattice separates the blocks. And you know, I love that little blue check used in the setting in the border. It gives it such a charming, soft country look. And in contrast, my sister made this one with beautiful, powerful colors. You know, each butterfly is brighter than the next. She used that sky blue batik just to set the blocks together, and then she finished the vertical rows with that striped fabric. It's just beautiful. Our pioneers referred to butterflies as flutterbies, or flutterbees, or sky kissers. So let's flutter about and make this quilt. I have 15 butterflies from the 170,000 species displayed in this charming quilt. Well, when you look at it, this is just one little butterfly in the quilt. He has a purple top and a yellow bottom, and then it's finished with black bias tape and little antennas at the top that are hand stitched. Well, 2 butterflies are made at the same time. So you see the opposite one right here with the yellow top and the purple bottom, the same hand stitching. Now all of the butterflies are sewn to a 7-inch background square. There's some other parts to know as well. Now this is the lattice in between the vertical rows, and then the scallop border uses that same fabric. The side and corner triangles are the same fabric as the outside scallop. And then that whole scallop is finished off with black rickrack. It's very charming. Well, there is a secret in the butterfly technique. It's like magic. So I have my wand. I'm going to go, ta-da! What makes it magical is this fusible interfacing. This is light to medium weight, non-woven fusible interfacing. It has a smooth side to it and a fusible side. You can actually see that, the little dots on it from the fusing. This is the butterfly template. It's the top and the bottom. You just place it right on top, and with a permanent marking pen, just trace around those pieces. Well, you know, this is pretty easy to just trace around. Get one for each of the butterflies, but Look how easy it is to just get the pre-printed stuff. I like that. So to make 2 butterflies, you need to have 2 6.5-inch squares of fabric. And just take one of the pieces of fabric, place it right side up, and place the pre-printed fusible with the smooth side on top. Just put some pins through it. Oh, 2 will do you to hold it together. Now, when you set up your machine, there's a couple of different things you should know. Use an open toe foot like this one. This is called an applique foot, but it should have metal on the bottom so that it just slides right over that fusible interfacing. Now, I like to use a short stitch length. I'm going to set it to 1.8. That's a little bit shorter than I usually like. Now, watch the presser foot when I drop it. And you can hear how heavy it drops. Well, to slide around this and go quickly, I have an adjustment that I can make. I'm going to reduce it from 3 down to 1. And now listen. You can hardly even hear it when it goes down. That's just so I can just swing right around those butterflies when I stitch on them. If you have needle down, that is really going to help, so that as you're stitching on the line, you can just go ahead and manipulate them around there. You know, you don't have to absolutely stay on the line, because once you trim and turn this, who is going to know? It helps whenever you have your needle down. If you raise your point, pivot, turn, you just got a little curve right in here. Ooh, I am sailing here. Just went off a little bit, but then, you know, butterflies are not absolutely perfect in nature. Okay, and then when you get back to where you started, you just overlap those stitches. Well, I have one that I sewed a little earlier, and this is what it looks like with both the top and the bottom stitched on the line. Then you take very sharp, short scissors. Oh, these are just about 5 inches long, and trim 1/8 inch away. And then as you're going around these curves, if you take a little clip right in here, this is where you're going to be turning it, and you want to have a nice smooth finish. All right, the whole way around. And these little pieces, just take these, just get rid of them, cut them off. You don't need those. Okay. This is the bottom half of the blue. I'm going to take my 2 favorite turning tools. This is a straw, just a fat drinking straw, and this is called a ballpoint bodkin. Got to say the word ballpoint. And in the back side of the fusible, just take and cut a little hole the size of your straw. Just in the fusible, take your straw and insert it right into that hole. Get it right up to the corner here. Turn the fabric so that it's on the end of the straw, and then take the ballpoint bodkin, push just against the fabric, and just push it right into that straw. Remove it. Da-da! You've got it partially turned. Now you did half of the butterfly, the bottom, so take your straw, insert it back through the hole, turn the fabric so that it's on the end. Just push that fabric right in there. This is just a great technique for turning any little applique piece. Okay, we've got those 2 things hanging out. Then just take with your fingers and finish turning it, and run your ball point on your bodkin around on the inside. Just push out those edges. Make some nice curves as you go along. This is looking good. Now, if you have just a little bit in the tip that you want to pull out, you can take your stiletto and just from the right side, put it right in and just pull it out, and it'll bring it out nicely. Well, now that I have these turned and I have the fusible interfacing on the back, I want to just take my wooden iron and press from the center to the outside edges so that you just roll the fabric right over that fusible interfacing. Now, how about some dimension? This is a piece of 100% cotton batting, and I like to use the cotton batting because it's firm enough so that you can go ahead and stuff it inside, but yet it doesn't quite compress like the polyester does. So just trim it exactly the same size as your piece, as your applique piece. And just take that cotton, get rid of it. Now, the easiest tool to use right now for stuffing is hemostats, because you can just grab hold of this corner right here and just take that corner right out to where you want it to be in place inside your applique. Turn it to the other edge and just pull it right out to the outside, and then release the hemostats when you get it in position, and you can just keep on going in and out. And the best thing is just try not to rip that interface. And you want to keep that hole nice and small, but yet manipulate your batting. Oh, just have a little bit more. All right, now I have 2 different sets of butterflies. All I'm going to do is just take those 2 tops, switch them around. They look completely different. Now these get fused onto 7-inch background squares. I have 2 squares already just for marking and positioning. If you just take and fold it in half, wrong sides together, that'll give you that center point. And then you just place the bottom 1 inch up from the outside edge. Let me see, I'm about 1 inch up there. Got the center on that line. Take the top and overlap it about 1/2 inch. And then with a very hot steam iron, press 1/2 at a time. Now we're leaving that very middle section open so we can go ahead and insert that fusible bias tape. Well, let me get these ready and I'll show you how to sew them together. I'm just fluttering through this butterfly block. Now I have already done a blanket stitch around the bottom half. I wanted to make it look like those 1930s quilts. So I just peeled back the top right here and I started at this point, stitched the whole way around. Right here I left just a little bit open so I can tuck that bias tape in, and then continued on the rest of it, finished right here. Now I want to show you how to take this fusible bias tape. It's cut 6 inches long, 5 inches, 6 inches will do you. And you just peel off the paper on the back side and insert the top right up here. Let me see if I can get my stiletto and just tuck a little bit right in there. You actually see the fusing right side up at this point. Now, start with the blind hem stitch on that black. Use needle down. Now this is a stitch that's going to go back and forth along the background and then take a bite in. Let me just pivot around and see if I can show you a little bit quicker. Okay, and whenever you want to pivot, always make sure that your needle is in the fabric on the outside edge. Okay, I'm pivoting and now I'm just heading right up along there. I anchored that black bias tape and I'm tucking as fast as my needle is going, just so you can see what it looks like. Now you can also go ahead and finish this outside edge by hand using your embroidery floss and a blanket stitch. It's just wonderful to sit at night watching television and do all of your stitching. All right, I'm going to stop right there just so you can see how that looks along that edge. And then the last step after I go the whole way around here is to take this bias tape, leave just a little bit at the top for the head, right here at the bottom, use your ballpoint stiletto, use the end of it and tuck it right in there. Let me see if I can get that in there. Whoops, I don't have my tongue held just right. And then I could fit it in there. Oh, it's going, it's going. And then once that's inserted, you just press that down flat and you can stitch right along the end to finish it. Now, you need to have some antennas up at the top. Those are done by hand with a French knot right at the tip. You might want to put some yo-yos. These are 2.5-inch yo-yos and some buttons just to decorate that butterfly. However, now I want to show you how to lay out your vertical rows and set them together with your side and corner triangles. When you place your butterflies, you turn them in opposite directions. This one's pointing this way, so the next one is pointing the opposite way. And then when you start the next row, you make sure that they are going the alternate. Let's see. Got that going. Okay, the whole way down. The side triangles come from 11-inch squares. You cut them in force on both diagonals. Now they are oversized, but they're going to go right along each of the butterflies on all 4 sides. I have 2 vertical rows, and over here like this, let me just get these in place as well. The corner triangles are 6-inch squares, and the 6-inch squares are only cut on one diagonal. Whoops, I should have cut a little bit harder right there. Didn't eat my good cereal for breakfast. Okay, and then these go up on the top like this, along here and here, and these as well are also oversized. So whenever you flip them right sides together, let me show you right here. You're going to flip it up like this and match up the square corner here, but you always have that long tip hanging out. And then you press it over once you've sewn that, and then you have the opposite side. Once again, you have a square corner to match right here. Flip it up right sides together, stitch it, and fold it down. We'll sew the side triangles onto all of the butterflies. Cut off those tips right along here. Trim it so that it's even. And then you can use your 1/4 inch foot. Add your corners, and you will have your rows together. I sewed all of my flutterbys together. They are just such charming little creatures. And then I squared up the outside edges of the rows. And you can see that I trimmed up to 1/4 inch away so that that next seam is just going to leave just a nice crisp point. And then I added a 2.5 inch lattice right down through the middle. Now this is my background color. The lattice is my background color, and that is also in the scallop border. You know, I'm going to go backwards on the scallop border and show you the finished one, and then I'll lead in to how you do it. Well, this is what the finished scallop looks like, and it starts out with a 7 inch wide background strip and a 5.5 inch wide scallop strip. And the background actually does end up being still 7 inches wide. And when it goes onto the quilt, it's just going to line up like this. I'm going to find the middle of the quilt, the middle of the scallop, and I have to leave extra on each end for that miter. Now on this wall hanging, I'm going to leave 10 inches extra. On the larger quilts, you need to have 21 extra inches just for that miter. So let's take a look. I want to take that blue scallop fabric. It is 5.5 inches wide. You're going to just piece it into a long strip. Remember to allow that 10 inches extra for the miter. Now, I'm going to take, first of all, measure off the 10 inches and just use a permanent marking pen. Put a little tick mark. This will be on the outside edge. And then I have the scallop. This is what it looks like. And it's kind of interesting. I tend to think of this as a valley more than a scallop because it's when you put two of these together that you end up with that scallop. Okay, I'm going to draw one, put another little tick mark along there. Watch, whenever I put this beside it, line it up like that, and then draw the other valley. Now, got a scallop right on top. And actually all that I need to have left, I have that little tick mark, and I need to have another 10 inches for the miter. So let me just mark right here. Ooh, I am close. I have like an inch to spare. Okay, now once you have your scallops drawn, I need to have 2 valleys for my top and bottom, and 3 valleys. Let's see, 1, 2, 3 valleys for my sides, and that's for the wall hanging sides. Okay, now take your ruler and trim off 1/4 inch right along here in that 10 inch, and then just curve right along on that scallop. Whoa, this is a good job for the cutter. And you're just going to go right along like that, and once you've got that all trimmed off, I am so close, but you know me. I've got one all set, and I'm already sewing rickrack on it. This is 1/2 inch wide rickrack, and I'm sewing it along that top edge, the scalloped edge, and you just want to make your needle go right down through the middle of it like this, and you just sew right along there. And once you have that, whoa, it would help if I sewed straight, huh? Well, once you have it sewed the whole way along there, then all you have to do is just take this piece and set the seam with the rickrack on the top, and then with your hands, just turn that under and get that fabric pressed so that it's right on top of the rickrack. This is a really easy way of turning under that raw edge. Well, that's what it looks like. And once you have your rickrack all sewn and pressed, let me just pull this away because I have the next step all ready to go. Then you just place it on top of the 7-inch background fabric. And it's just a stitch in the ditch process. You line up the outside edges, and right along the rickrack in the ditch, you just stitch it down. And that's all that's to it. It looks pretty complicated, but you know, really quite easy to do. Now, I'm going to take the quilt top, and this is just like a miter. So you have to take and put little dots on your quilt. If you can visualize it, you can go ahead and do it that way, but on each corner, you want to put a dot 1/4 inch in. Let me take and do the second side too. 1/4 inch in, and then take the scallop. And you find the center of the scallop. This is my side piece. Just fold it in half, find the very center of it, and line it up with the very center of the quilt. Actually, let me turn that around. I want to do it this way. That's much better. Okay, so once you have the center, then all you do is flip it right sides together to your quilt, and you stitch from that 1/4 inch dot over to the other side. And you do that on all 4 pieces, just flipping that miter out of the way as you go around it. Well, let me get my border sewn on, and I'll show you how to do that miter. I have my borders on, and I have one great miter. So let's see if I can get 3 more great miters. Let me show you from the back side, because this is where it meets 1/4 inch in from the quarter, 1/4 inch in each side. And I found that I really like to use the locking stitch to hold it tight so those threads didn't come out. Now I want to take this piece right here and miter it. So the best way is just grab hold of those ends, flip it around so that you can line up those 2 border pieces. And this is what's critical. The distance between here and here needs to be the same on all of these pieces so you can get a nice match on that rickrack. So I'm just going to line it up along here. Just roll it along. Look, make sure that you've got it lined up pretty well. Out here, once again, hold your quilt out like this. Take your 6 by 24 or your 12.5 inch square up, but a ruler that has a 45-degree line on it. And I'm just going to line that 45-degree line up with the side straight, and then put the tip of the ruler right up at that dot. Let me make sure it's perfect. Okay, there's the dot. Take the marker. Oh, how about I use the little short end, because I don't want to make a real dark line on here. And just draw along that ruler. Now, this is your stitching line, and all you need to do before you start stitching is take a pin and make sure that it's matched up here. Roll it back. Ooh, looking good. And matched up there. Put a couple of more pins right along that line, and you're going to make sure that you pull this back out of the way. And then once you stitch on it, then all you need to do is take and trim it 1/4 inch away and press that seam back. And this is how it looks from the right side. Now the scallops might not mirror each other perfectly, but this is the way it's going to look. Well, let me finish the rest of my miters. Now that you know these techniques, you can incorporate them into your other quilts. Well, my sister Patty made this one, and it's just so cute. She took the butterfly and used the fusible interfacing, but she left the sides loose so they just appear to be flying. And then the body is that same bias tape that she attached to the quilt. Some embellishment with the buttons and the yo-yos, very fun. And then in place of the rickrack, she used the piping for that scalloped edge. Very nice. Well, may these delightful butterflies bring a little extra joy and color into your life.